It's time to get our hardy broad beans sown today, and if you haven't already, then it's going to be a really good idea to check out the first video, which goes over the type of seeds that we're using and all the information of what you're going to need for this grow along going forward as well. Thank you to those of you who let me know that you're joining in. It's really good to know that there are people that are interested. So there is still plenty of time to get these seeds sown, and you can of course sow them directly as well. So the varieties that we're using is a variety that are sold by Real Seeds, which is Aquadolce Long Pod. I'm probably pronouncing that completely wrong. So today we're going to be popping our seeds into some pots that are the taller type pots, and then we'll be planting these out pretty soon as well. If you've watched my videos before, you'll know that I sow pretty much all of my seeds into soil blocks. If you've not heard of them before, it's a contraption that looks like this, hopefully a bit less rusty, and they make these little blocks which is made up from a mix of different composts to make the consistency correct, and then you make them wet and then you form these blocks. And even these bigger seeds like broad beans are absolutely fine to sow into these. So I'm going to be sowing a couple of trays like this. I've got some older seeds, and then I'm going to do one more tray of some fresher seeds, and then we'll carry on with the pots as well. If you are interested in soil blocks, I will be doing more information on that as soon as I can. But if you've got any questions, then you can message me. So that can be on Instagram, on Messenger, or you can also email me. So my email address is seedlingsuccessuk@yahoo.com. So for these larger seeds in this block, we're just going to be taking each of these seeds on their ends and just pressing them into the block. And we don't actually need to cover these either. It actually helps the seeds not rot or anything like that, and allows plenty of air circulation. And these are quite quick to germinate as well, so we shouldn't find any problems in the soil blocks, and they're planted out quite soon, so they don't have to stay in these over winter. If they did, I'd be looking at either using the much larger soil block when they get to a certain size, or popping them into pots after that. But they are fine from my experience of just planting them straight out at that stage. That's them all sown, and we'll have a look at them when the others are germinated as well. So for the rest of the seeds, we're going to be popping them into pots as you would normally. Here I have a mixture of 10 parts sieved compost, so normal peat-free bought compost. This is a variety called Durstons. And then on this side, I've got another 10 parts of my own compost that has also been sieved. There will be some larger parts in here because we use pretty much a larger sieve. I will remove any that are really big, but these are large seeds, so it shouldn't be a problem. One thing I will find with these is there will be weed seeds in this, so I will have competing things that will germinate, but I will just be taking that out as we go, so that's not really a problem. And then I also have 2 parts of vermiculite. So vermiculite is going to help the moisture, and it's also going to help with aeration, and then it also does help with some minerals as well within the soil. So we're just going to give that a bit of a mix together. And then we're going to just fill the pots up to the top, just give it a bit of a firm down, but it doesn't need to be pushed down or anything. We just want it to be compact enough. And then I'm just going to pop these into a tray. So these are really loved by rodents, so I'm going to need to keep them up high in my polytunnel to avoid the mice eating them. The other thing you could do is pop a dome on them, We don't usually want a dome at this time of the year otherwise, so it's a bit of a decision of what you want to do, whether that's worth doing or not. But if you obviously can't actually get them out of somewhere where the mice are going to eat them, then it could be your only option. So we're looking at about 5 centimeters into the soil that we want to pop these in, and we're only doing one seed per pot because they are obviously quite large. Germination temperature for these is around 7 Celsius, but that is 7 Celsius on the soil temperature, not necessarily the air. So it doesn't need to be in an area where it's much warmer. If you are worried about that and you want to take them inside, then a second that you see germination, you want to bring them back outside or they're just going to get too leggy. So once again, we're going to put the flat side of the seed down into the pot. And then just recover those seeds as well. I always like to actually water from the bottom and then let them soak up as much as they need rather than from the top, because you might not actually get a good consistent watering by doing it like that. So we're just going to let these soak for sort of 10 minutes, maybe 15. This is about 15 minutes later. So once you start feeling that the top of these are getting moist, it's time to discard any of the water that's left in the bottom. These are unlikely to need watering again now before we see that they germinate. And at that point, I want you to actually lift the pot and check the weight of the pot before adding any more water. I often find, depending on the weather, that actually we won't need to water these again until they're ready to go out. We have obviously been having a very mild period at the moment, so that might be different, and it will depend on how much heat and light that you get in your undercover growing space as well. So that leaves me with these 4 trays. So these are the older seeds that I've just potted on. Hopefully they'll do fine. They'll be planted out at the same time. Then I've got these newer seeds in the soil blocks and the 2 other trays that we've just done together as well. All of these trays now are going to sit up on a raised bit on my crop bars, so the mice definitely won't be able to get to them. I will also be checking that there's no slugs in here, because there could be slug eggs in the compost. So even if you're putting it in an area where you don't think the slugs can be able to get, it's still worth checking. Keep an eye on them once they do germinate as well, and if you see any nibbling, then at that point we want to work out what it is that's been nibbling them. And then we will have a look at these next, probably when they are actually ready to plant out in a few weeks. But if there's any issues in between, then do let me know. Or if you're worried that yours aren't doing very well, then let me know as well. Do please remember that if you are going to germinate yours inside, bring them outside immediately. I have never found that it is required. But if you're worried about the temperatures, or particularly if you're up north, then it might be worth doing that. But you don't want that leggy seedling to put outside. We want a short, stocky seedling.